Close your eyes, exhale, feel your body relax, and let go of whatever you're carrying today.
Well, I'm letting go of the worry that I wouldn't get my new contacts in time for this class. I got them delivered free from 1-800-CONTACTS. Oh my gosh, they're so fast.
And breathe.
Oh, sorry. I almost couldn't breathe when I saw the discount they gave me on my first order. Oh, sorry. Namaste.
Visit 1-800-CONTACTS.com today to save on your first order.
1-800-CONTACTS.
The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. Your info is in endless places that could expose you to identity theft, leading to lost funds. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, our restoration specialists will fix it, guaranteed, or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit lifelock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
All these patients complaining they can't get their medicines. Insurers and PBMs are often owned by the same giant company, so middlemen, like me, decide what medicines you can get and how much you pay. But don't worry, if your prescription gets denied, we know another one that works for us. I mean, you.
Washington should stop PBMs and insurers from driving up drug costs. Learn more at phrma.org/insurer costs. Paid for by Pharma.
Roy. Brilliant goal! And how important that could be. It might be the goal that sees Forest go through.
Yeah, it was nice. Scoring the 1-0 against Malmö with such a goal. Yeah, it was that's fun memories.
I can't believe we're putting ourselves through this to watch one game of football. And we literally got to Malmo like about 2:00 on the afternoon of the game. Didn't drink that much beer because it was about £7 a pint in Sweden. And watched the game and then straight back on the bus to do the same ridiculous journey in reverse. But again, it was a hilarious adventure.
Oh, the keeper saves it, and there's Braga, and there's a goal! Forest are in front.
It was great seeing Colin nearly got snapped in half when he got through into the post. Going away to Lyon, we knew it was going to be tough. It's probably the most patriotic and the most spine-tingling speech that I've ever heard from Piercy before the game, of saying why we would get through this game. It was kind of Churchillian, shall we say.
30 years on, a retrospective of Forest's UEFA Cup exploits in the 1995-96 season by 1865. Catch up on Apple, Spotify, YouTube and most podcast providers. Visit 1865.football for all the links.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast with Rich Ferraro.
This is YATESY'S Espresso Bar, a podcast brought to you by your friends at 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. My name is Rich Ferraro, and in this particular podcast, we will be coming later to talk about the men's team, the fallout after Braga, and the joy after Brentford. And also, we will discuss transfer speculation. But before we get onto all of that, it's time for the return of the 1865 Women's Show. And I'm joined by our correspondent, Matt Turpin. How are you doing, Matt?
I'm pretty good, Rich. How are you?
Yeah, all good, thank you, all good. And I want to start off by taking us back in time just over a week to what is known in 1865 circles as the Turpin Grudge match, where Brighton beat Forest in the Women's FA Cup. So obviously this was an away match, and just to explain for those who hadn't heard this on previous shows, your wife is a Brighton fan, isn't she?
Yeah. I mean, we've got two kids, so divided loyalties there between, But I think secretly they fall on the Forest side.
Well, I mean, basically you're indoctrinating them by taking them down the city ground, aren't you?
Yeah, and I've made them purposely scared of seagulls in the wild as well, so they come off in there.
That sounds reasonable to me. They're just terrorists, aren't they?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, it's been difficult though when the men thrashed Brighton last season. Yeah, that was a tense
Frosty
day.
atmosphere for an evening.
Frosty atmosphere, yeah. And, cups of tea made grudgingly.
Yeah.
It wasn't nice.
So talk to us about this Women's FA Cup match then, because obviously it wasn't a away match, but naturally as a household you were keeping up with what was going on. I mean, obviously in practice it's no surprise, is it, that Forest lost because we're a division below them.
Yeah, for sure. Brighton are a brilliant team. They're not at full strength at the moment, to be fair, but they were great. Massive problem though, with this is like it's a massive match. It's it's gonna attract a lot of people. A lot of people are gonna get interested in women's football. FA Cup match against brilliant rivals, and you think, oh, this is going to be prime viewing. They're going to make sure this is available all over the TV. We'll be able to find something. Might have to pay for it, but whatever.
So where did you watch it then, Matt?
I watched it on. I watched it on a BBC app.
Yes.
I just watched a minute. Not even a minute
text,
by minute.
Minute by minute text. When they could be bothered, text
yeah.
commentary.
It was nowhere. This was a real shame. I would have liked to go down Brighton, but it's a bit of a way, a bit of a schlep to get down there and back again, just for a match. Especially in a cold January day. So it was nowhere, and it really it peeved me. I was annoyed. It just seems. I know this is always going to be a thing with a women's game, and it's going to be long step out shadow of the men's game. And this isn't being chippy or anything, but it just seems ridiculous that for some Byzantine definition of the TV rights, it couldn't be shown.
Yeah,
and it wasn't allowed to be shown. It wasn't on Radio Nottingham. Couldn't have it on and stuff like that. Instead, it was you had to be there. It was a literary moment of.
And for those who are kind of quite unsure about what we're talking about, I guess the equivalent is before this season, if a match that was a men's match that was originally designated for 3 p.m. on a Saturday got moved to a Sunday, let's say because of European commitments or cup matches or whatever, then not only could that not be on TV, but it could also not be on the radio because it's still under the rules of the 3 p.m. Saturday blackout. So at least those rules have changed for the men's game, but it didn't for this one.
No, and it's sort of like it reminds me a lot of when going right back to 2005 cricket when England the Ashes series then, and it was the most exciting Ashes ever. Channel 4 had the rights at the time, and so many new people got into cricket that year. That summer it was fantastic, and people were like, great, this is wonderful. And then the rights went over to Sky, and it was such a
with inevitable consequences.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously it put some money there, but it stopped that grassroots and stuff. The support dropped off. That support that was ripe for the taking, that was hungry for cricket, suddenly we're deprived of cricket unless they had a Sky subscription. This is a problem. The women's game is at a crucial juncture. We've won the Euros on a bounce. I've got a World Cup coming up. We've got the qualifiers at City Ground coming up very soon. That's going to be exciting. Real pot at the World Cup. We're pretty much favourites going in. Well, we should be favourites going into that. There's a massive opportunity here. I don't think it's going to struggle to be this good again. Yeah, you can't watch a high-ranked teams play in the FA Cup.
Yeah,
and it doesn't just extend there. You see this across. Again. I understand that Forest men's exploits in Europe are having an effect here, but the fact that on the match on Sunday was scheduled right against the Brentford match, the men's match. So you got attendance in it's still 900 and something, but it would have been a lot more if it'd been scheduled at a different time. And next week is the same as well. We've got a clash again. On match day, so it does always feel second best, and you think there's a massive opportunity being missed here to really push women's football. And we're not going to get this opportunity again. So really, it's you've got to capture the zeitgeist, haven't you? So we've got the moment now, and we're squandering it.
Right, let's come back to on-pitch matters. Apart from the defeat, and obviously therefore being out of the cup, the other key moment in that match was Amy Claypole going off injured. Now, we mentioned this in last week's YATESY'S Espresso Bar, but I will just come to you on this one, Matt, because obviously, essentially, she's out for the rest of the season. They said 10 weeks, which is effectively the rest of the season.
Yeah.
And with Mel Johnson already missing on maternity leave, that's been, that's pretty crucial, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, she's been wonderful as well. Claypole's been, brilliant on the attack. She's a good finisher. So this is a massive setback. 10 weeks is a long time. She's done her ankling quite severely. 10 weeks is, I'd imagine, optimistic even. And that will be the season, more or less, run us up to the best part of the season, and then bedding back into the team, getting fit again. I can't really see it. So it has left a hole up front, or had left a hole up front, thankfully.
But last week we signed Libby Smith, and this week, just as we're going to record, Forest have announced the signing of, let me make sure I get the name right, because it's literally just been announced, Joy Amewa, Nigerian international forward. Carly has said, Joy is a dynamic forward with a natural instinct in front of goal. Her ability to find the net consistently at club and international level makes her a fantastic addition to our squad. So one of the advantages, I suppose, is that ability to kind of say, right, okay, we can go into the transfer market and we can cover those gaps that we've got.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that is something which I'm really glad at the ambition. We could be settling on to, just putting it down and saying mid-table finish if we're doing all right, or at the very least avoid relegation. Absolutely fine. Focus on the next season. But Collie Davis is really intent on actually getting ourselves into as high up at the table as possible.
Yeah, absolutely.
We've got some real crunch matches. We've got Birmingham and Charlton coming up soon. They're going to be tough.
Yeah.
The match on Sunday, we could have scored 5. We just lacked a bit of finish there. Claypole might have, if she'd been on, you fancy she could have got a couple of those.
Let's talk about that match, because it was a 1-0 victory over Sheffield United, who are stalwarts of the women's game and professional team as well, professional level. And first thing to note is, where one opportunity fails, another one arises, and that meant that Charlie Wellings, basically a hero of last season, but has really had to bide her time. She got into the team and she scored a goal that, it was an odd one, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, she even looked shocked. There's a great photo, actually, if it's on the Forest at the moment, of her actually looking a bit perplexed that she'd even got it, joyfully perplexed. Sheffield United are extremely good at extinguishing anything in the box. They were totally on Deanne Rose. So it took something special, and a weird ball came through. She got a head on it, not very cleanly. I think it was meant to be a pass rather than a shot. And it curved quite weirdly and went into the top corner. It took a second in the stand for everyone to actually realise a goal had gone in.
And let's hear from Charlie herself in her post-match interview.
I can't really talk you through it either, to be honest. I went in for the header and knew that it was there, and then after that I think I was facing the other way, and then it was in the back of the net next time I seen. So, and the girls just running over, which is nice, but I can't really tell you much about it either.
So she didn't know what was going on, but I guess, to use the old cliche, they all count, don't they?
Oh, for sure. I'm not going to complain about whatsoever. It was lovely. It's one of those moments because there were so many chances in the match where people assumed the goal had gone in on both sides. There's so many chances. So for one to go in totally unexpectedly and totally, weirdly, great. And I like the fact she fessed up to the fact it was,
I think it's the only thing you can do sometimes, isn't it?
Well, you don't know. Some might say, "Oh yeah, well, it's all part of a master game. I've been practicing that moving training for weeks, and I finally got it to come off." And but no, she fessed up. In fact, after the match, she came and did some signing and stuff like that down the front with lots of kids go down there, and someone went, "Oh, Charlie Wellings match winner," and she looked really confused. Went, "Oh yeah, I suppose I am." That's really sweet.
And you did share as well that it was your daughter's first time seeing a victory, and she got a selfie with the match winner.
She did, yeah. That was pretty wonderful. She went to the last match to test it out with a big brother and a few other people. This is the first time she went alone with me, and she was like, very excited. And yeah, she loved it. She saw a win. You redded it through the whole of the second half. If anyone else was
once again, indoctrination.
It was. It really. I mean, she terrifies me. I sometimes give it a bit loud, but she put me to shame. And she even got a toy unicorn. She's nicknamed Chantel Boy Horn Lorca as well. So she's
nice.
got a gift of the pun.
Yeah. And just to finish off this segment, Matt, before we let you go, so as you mentioned, forthcoming fixtures, Birmingham away this coming Sunday, then Charlton at home the following Sunday, the 8th of Feb, and then to round off this current crop of fixtures, we'll be away at Sunderland on the 15th of Feb, and all of those are obviously in the WSL2. And just as a quick, I suppose, state of the nation, Forest are currently in 6th position in a 12-team league. I mean, last time you were on the show, you did say, you know what, considering we're newly promoted, mid-table, we'll take that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it was a total step into the unknown going into the WSL2 at last after so many years of knocking at the door of it. And you know that this is a step up. This is a big step up, and equally you might stumble off that step and find yourself back down again. But the ambition that Forrest has shown, the ambition that Collie Davis has shown, you know, look at these signings. It's like incredible. The fact that we are playing to win matches. We're not playing to sit back and just, you know, cruise our way through this league and build later. It's brilliant. It's brilliant to see.
And as we've commented before, this is something that, you know, rightly or wrongly, is a hallmark of the ownership of Evangelos Marinakis, but also of Carly and the players. Getting promoted last season isn't enough. The aim is very much to get in WSL in the top tier as soon as possible, isn't it?
Oh, absolutely. You know, they're professionalised to such an extent that, you know, they have absolutely behind the prize. You look at the signings, you look at the investment that's going in. You look at the fact that we are going out there to win. When we played Charlton away, we took the lead for a while. It looked pretty strong, and I thought this was a real crucial moment. We went on to lose 2-1, unfortunately.
But
you can
also
tell they're going to be
worth saying that Charlton are quite significantly at the top of the table. They're on 30 points, and the next team are on 25, and that's 30 points after 12 games. So no shame in losing to them.
for sure. Yeah, when they come to the City ground, I think, you know, I'm going to eat my words probably, but I think we fancy our chances there. We definitely have belief.
Yes. Okay. Well, we'll hear from you again very soon, Matt. Just to summarise, of course, so Sunday, a great day for Forest with a 1-0 victory for the women. We'll be talking in part 2 about the 2-0 victory for the men away at Brentford. And just to add, for the sake of completeness, that our very own Jeremy was celebrating the under-15s team that he coaches getting a win and his son scoring 4 goals. So a good day all round for 1865ers.
Whoop.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
At Sierra, discover top workout gear at incredible prices, which might lead to another discovery. Your headphones haven't been connected this whole time. Awkward. Discover top brands at unexpectedly low prices. Sierra, let's get moving.
Welcome to Yatesy's Espresso Bar.
Hello and welcome back. It's part 2 of Yatesy's Espresso Bar, or just to quote what Baz said after the Braga match and that post-match interview by our skipper, Yatesy's delusional espresso bar. And I'm joined by Steve Burns, and we're going to talk a little bit about Braga, because that was not a good night for Forest, was it, Steve?
It was terrible. I mean, I think what made it even worse was that I was missing the penultimate episode of Traitors. I could have actually spent my time much better than I did for sitting through 2 hours of that misery. I think it's also shown what we've known from last season and what we've seen again this season, that is there is such a gulf between our starting 11 and our second string team. And again, it was so apparent with all of those players that came into the team that it just weakened us significantly.
Yeah, absolutely. No disagreement here. What I would like to do, though, is I would like to play you, and for you, the listener, for you to revisit what I thought was a quite magnificent rant by our very own George after the game. This was recorded from his hotel room after the Braga match.
But you look at the table and all the teams we've played by Utrecht and Malmo are up there in the top.
Yeah.
So you're thinking, if that's the benchmark and we're still what we're now 13th,
Yeah.
then that's unacceptable that we've played that standard of team, yet we've won 2 games or 3 games. It's just baffling how we've allowed. I'm just so upset and disappointed how this was the most exciting season we've had in so long. It had so much potential, and we've just let it slip. And when are we going to get a chance to be an exciting Premier League team with money to spend, with a connection between the fan base like we had, and with Europe at the cusp of our hands, and let it slip? We're not going to get this chance. We waited 30 years just to be in Europe, and we've let it go so bad, and it's just so frustrating. But it's Forest, and it's not a surprise, is it?
So, Steve, I mean, look, you and I have been in this game for long enough to know that it pays not to get too high when you win and not to get too low when you lose. But it was really hard not to be really down in the dumps on Thursday night. And of course, George was hoarse. He was emotional. He was upset. But I find it hard to disagree with anything he said there in the heat of the moment.
No, and as I've said on this podcast before, I've supported Forest since the early 80s. But even last night, I was wondering under the transfer window whether there is actually a possibility of maybe changing to another team. I was so upset on Thursday evening. And again, I echo everything in that clip you just played there. It was an opportunity for us to go and stamp our mark on that tournament, to give us an opportunity to get into the final 8 and save us from having to play another 2 games. A chance for some of those fringe players, like Balakwa and McAtee, just to kind of really start to show what they are capable of and what we thought we were getting. And unfortunately, we didn't get any of that.
And I'm just going to point out that it's turned out to be, on his CV, Douglas Luiz's last match for Nottingham Forest was that.
Yeah.
So that tells you everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And again, I expected a lot more from him in that game. I thought, with that standard of opposition, that he would be very much pulling the strings in midfield, very much dictating the pace of the game. But that just didn't happen.
Right. We could talk about the match until the cows come home, but I will respectfully direct our listeners, if you can bear it, to our match report straight after that. And that's where that clip by George and Baz came from. What I do want to talk about, now that the dust has settled a little bit, is that post-match interview by Ryan Yates. Now, just a couple of weeks ago, we were saying, in fact, this time last week, I was talking to Maradon the Midlands, and we were saying the great thing about Yates is it feels like having a fan on the pitch. That idea of geeing people up and getting the team going and making them realise how much it means to everyone. And I'm not going to point any fingers at his performance. I'm not even going to point any fingers about the own goal, because these things happen. And people have bad matches, and sometimes all 11 or all 15 people have a bad match in one night. But he read the room really badly, didn't he? In that into
Yeah, I think when he describes the result as being fine margins, I don't think there were fine margins in that. I mean, granted, you could talk about the 54 seconds between the penalty miss and the goal, but lots of mistakes there. But just not as a team, not getting hold of the ball, not actually taking the game on, not taking the game to Braga, not injecting a bit of pace into it, not using all the skill that we've actually got as a team and the extra caliber effectively that we had against them. That's not fine margins. That's just not turning up and doing your job.
Yeah, and I'm generally a believer that most players, there are exceptions to it, but most players, to be honest, they know when they've had a bad match. I think every single Forest player who turned out that night will have come off the pitch knowing, oh God, that was awful. Not just the result, but actually the performance was awful, and we didn't show up, and I don't care about the weather and the travelling and all of that kind of stuff. But I need to look at myself in the mirror after that. And Yatesy is the archetypal version of that. And on this occasion, I don't know if it's media training where he was kind of, maybe this is a thing of like try and play it down, don't kind of ramp up an already volatile situation. I mean, if Joe Worrell was still at the club, I'm pretty certain he'd have gone in front of the microphones and said that was crap.
Yeah, and I part of me wonders whether he went for that interview because he was so angry about what happened and he was actually having to temper what he was wanting to say rather than what he actually wanted to say. I wonder whether there was an element of that in it.
Yeah, and this is why honest interviews with people involved in football do stand out is because, let's be honest, with media training, with the pressure from clubs and knowing that whatever you say is going to get ramped up,
Yeah.
it's one of those things whereby honest interviews don't happen very often, which is why those 2 or 3 occasions from Joe Worrell, including, on the pitch at Wembley, stand out as being the exceptions that prove the rule. I'm firmly of the belief that most of the time there's no point interviewing footballers because you know exactly what they're going to say. But even then, I was a bit taken aback by Yatesy that night.
Yeah, I think that's fair enough. I think hopefully we should have got more from our captain there, and somebody who obviously lives and bleeds Forest.
Yeah. So after that, after trying not to get too low, and it was hard on Thursday, let's try not to get too high about Sunday. Now, is there an argument that Sunday justified the radically different team selection on Thursday, even though it means that we do have to have the extra round that no one wants?
I think it probably did. I mean, you saw how fresh the players actually looked. I wonder whether there was also an element of as a squad wanting to put right what had happened on Thursday. I think there was a huge element of that as well. But they did turn up and they played exceptionally well. We were so solid at the back. I mean, Murillo, Milenkovic were outstanding. I thought we started to see just touches of it, but Gibbs White actually starting to produce some of the through balls and some of the creativity that we would expect from him. I thought Igor Jesus, his goal was taken so well. That first touch on his chest to put it into space and then volley it through the keeper's legs, I just thought that was unbelievable. And then to top it all off, Taiwo Awoniyi turning into prime R9 and scoring pretty much from the halfway line. It was, I had really low expectations going into that game.
Didn't we all?
Based on what I'd seen on Brighton. I mean, to the point where it was, I was very tempted not to pay any attention until full time, just to limit my level of disappointment. But yes, was very, very surprised with the way that game went.
Well, okay, I'm going to refer to so on Sky Sports, Rob Green did say, "Oh, that was a Sean Dyche special," and Mrs. Ferraro next to me on the sofa said, "I don't know whether that's a good or a bad thing."
I think, given the circumstances, I mean, it's a good thing. And this is the thing that I'm really struggling with. You look at the Wrexham game, you look at the Braga game, and when we're playing Swansea as well, and when we're in cup competitions, the squad is significantly weaker, and we have had some major disappointments in those competitions. But over the last few games, our starting 11, and particularly with Sangare coming back, we're looking really good in the Premier League at the moment. I mean, 7 points out of our last 9, and the 2 points we dropped there were against Arsenal. We're going into Palace on Sunday, who are, let's be honest, they're rocking a little bit at the moment, and we could well get a result there. And then the next few string of games we've got coming with teams like Wolves, Leeds, there's some opportunity to pick up some points here. And I'm not sure if you saw the stats that have been doing the rounds online this week that, since Sean Dyche took over in the form table, we would be 11th in the Premier League now.
Yeah, so I mean, this is something that I think has been forgotten, but partly because we had that dreadful run of 4 defeats in a row.
Yeah.
But I come back to what I feared was going to get lost during that run, which is that if you take out the 39 days, Forest have actually had a reasonable league season.
Yes. And, I see a lot of discussion online as to whether, do we want Sean Dyche football for the foreseeable future? Do we just want him to the end of the season so we can crawl over the line and regroup again? I don't know, but I think we have to recognise that we're actually doing okay in the league. The league table maybe doesn't necessarily reflect that. And there is an argument to say that the amount of points that you're going to need to stay up this year is going to be significantly higher than previous seasons. But results could go for as well over the next 2-3 weeks that could put some distance between us and the bottom 3.
Yeah. I'll come back to Palace in a little while. But before I do, just very briefly on the Ferencváros game, it is essentially a dead rubber, so we can expect the stiffs to turn out again, can't we?
Yeah, I'm so glad I bought the season pass with all 4 tickets for those games in advance.
You're listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast.
Welcome to Yates's Espresso Bar.
Welcome back. I'm here with Steve Burns, and before we talk about the Nick Randall Q&A, just want to touch upon, you mentioned the Palace match, and you mentioned how Palace are, they're on a bit of a downer, and they started in the first transfer window, they sold their best player. In the second transfer window, they sold their next best player. And their third best player is going to be suspended, Adam Wharton, for the match against us. And it looks as though there's a chance actually one of their other best players might be turning out in a red shirt rather than a striped one, because Jean-Philippe Mateta, Forest to bid 35 million. Personal terms, according to David Ornstein, are not an issue. If nothing else, I think Palace fans have had a bit of a rude awakening at our behest about the way that their club is being run.
Yeah, and I think adding to that, Glasner's very unsettled at the moment. There's been a lot of questions in the media about what his long-term future at that club looks like. I did even see on X, he's going to be resigning within the next week. And their run of form is not good at the moment. Was it something like 9 games without a win? So it is definitely the right time for us to be playing them. The whole Mateta thing, I do wonder whether this is a bit like when Man City had all those rumours around Gibbs White before the FA Cup semi-final. Are we just trying to unsettle him a little bit? Who knows? But I could see him being a good player for us. I think he's the kind of striker that would thrive on some of the service that we can provide if he can get his head on one of the 150 crosses that gets put in every game.
And I was speculating in our group chat that, it could be a part exchange with Taiwo, because his value will have doubled on Sunday.
Yeah, definitely.
And actually, you can see Taiwo playing for a team like Palace.
Yeah, with Brendan again.
Exactly. So obviously, Lorenzo Lucha is going to be available, having been signed just too late to play against Brentford at the weekend. There's also a rumour about an Olympiacos player. Can you believe it, Steve? So Iranian striker Mehdi Taremi. I don't think that's necessarily... I'm not sure whether that's got legs, because, he's 33, 34, so he probably hasn't really got legs. I don't know about that. And apparently Forest still do hold an interest in Jurgen Strand-Larsen. We've got to be careful, haven't we, about not doing what we are prone to doing, which is signing every player who's available and then realising they can't all play at once.
Yeah, I think we've got into that difficult situation, and I'm going to use the Braga word again here. We saw that last week when we turned up without a fit striker.
Yeah.
Which you would not have expected, considering we recognised that was a threat last season. We ended up with 4 strikers, and suddenly none of them were actually able to play because we'd loaned one of them out to Frankfurt, who's now scoring left, right, and centre.
Banging him in.
Yeah, something needs to happen in terms of putting proper strength and depth into the squad, not just buying players for the sake of buying players. And I think the thing with transfers, we have some of them like your Murillos, like your Milenkovic's that come off and look like genius moves. And for every one of those, there's going to be a couple of transfers that just don't work out. For example, Ndoye at the beginning of the year, his first game when he scores with a diving header, you think, crikey, we've got a player on our hands here. And again, he's just not quite kicked on as well this season.
I'm going to refer back to something that Baz has said a number of times, including on the podcast, which is that I don't think he's a winger. I suspect he's not necessarily the same kind of player. He's not as physical, but I suspect that there's an element of the Joe Linton in there, in that he's not a winger, he's not a forward, and we saw quite conclusively he's not a forward.
Yeah, definitely.
But I think he could potentially be quite good as a number 8.
Okay, I've not seen that one, but I'll mull on that one.
Yeah, he's got the work rate. He's got some ability. It's just that because on the wing you get the ball so rarely and there's pressure to do stuff, and I think he's buckling under that pressure in the Premier League. So that's just a thought there. But it's time to move on, and we're going to finish off with a little bit of news coming from our spy at the Supporters Trust AGM last night, which took place on Monday night, that is. And there was a Q&A with Nick Randall, KC, who's obviously the chairman of Nottingham Forest. So a couple of things that came up aside from that. There are some new drawings or artist impressions of what the ground might look like. But there's still the age-old question about the boat club. So to quote from our source, the boat club are moaning that a wind assessment hasn't taken place, which may affect the flotation of their boats. So, let's be honest, wind assessments, make your own joke there about the hot air that's being spouted about what's going on with the boat club. But yeah, in the words of our source, I kid you not.
Yeah, I mean, again, reports on. I basically feel like I spent most of my day on X looking for rumours about Forest. But one of the ones that came up today was that the boat club have come up with a 7-page dossier of complaints about why this stadium should not go ahead. Yeah, who knows? There's always a NIMBY somewhere.
Yeah. So that one's going to rumble on and on. But let's move on to the things that Nick Randall said. So as you'd expect, he was fairly concise, let's say, with his answers. I mean, I guess he's a legal eagle, so he's used to saying things without saying things, and probably vice versa as well. So he said that the club are happy with Deitch, especially as you alluded to, actually, the form table suggests that actually his record is all right. And the noise from social media is actually a minority of unqualified people. Now, anyone who watched a Braga match might beg to differ, but again, you look at the league form, and there've been essentially, I think that's a confirmation of the fact that we are in a mid-table position. You look at matches like the Everton games, for example, and those are the kinds of rickets that you drop when you are a mid-table team. You win some, you lose some. I think the biggest criticism of Forest under Deitch in the league is that actually a few of those losses we could easily have turned into draws, and our league position would be so much healthier if we'd done that just 2 or 3 times. Also, the stadium approval will hopefully be in April or May, with preliminary works to be started in the summer. Phase 1 completion in the summer of 2030, which would be the Peter Taylor stand and the Trent End. And then finally, Forest are in a good place with regards to PSR, and I'm assuming that's the Europa League money coming in. So any thoughts? This is hot off the press stuff, but any thoughts on that, Steve?
I think the main one there is that they feel like they're in a good position with PSR. Granted, we've heard that story before, and then followed a points deduction. So I'll believe that when I see that. I would not be surprised if we see 1, maybe 2 of our prize jewels being sold off before the PSR window closes in the summer. So let's enjoy. Well, I was going to say let's enjoy Murillo and Anderson while we can, to be quite honest. And I think Anderson is the likely candidate, and there's plenty of people courting him at the moment. So I shall enjoy watching the Geordie Maradona play while I still can.
Yeah.
So that's encouraging news, though, that they feel that they've got PSR under control. As for the stadium, how long's this been dragging on there? Was it kind of COVID times when we first started talking about the other thing? I'm partly in the same camp as I am with transfers, which is I'll believe it when I see it. So it would be good if we can actually get things approved in April, May, and who knows? There may even be some money left in the budget for hot water in the Clough stand.
Don't you come here with those kinds of ideas?
Look, I can dream.
Yeah. I mean, I will just, if you want to take it that far, you could say it's going back to 2008 when under Nigel Doughty, there were those plans drawn up for a grounds out near Clifton somewhere, wasn't there? So make of that what you will. Obviously, we will wait and see what happens with those things. I don't think anything's going to get resolved soon. And of course, the other thing I will just say on the topic of Murillo, I do just have to mention that no look pass. Oh, that was a joyous moment, wasn't it? Yeah, and he is a joyous player. So obviously we know he's not going to stay with us for the rest of his career. But yeah, Murillo being Murillo is just a joy, and that seems like a nice place to leave it. It's been a bumper show. We've crammed a lot in there. So thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Steve. Thank you to Matt for the women's update, and of course remember that if you like what you hear, please do leave us a review, share our content. That will attract other listeners and make our podcast easier to find. In the meantime, we'll be back after Ferencváros, and come on you Reds.
You've been listening to 1865, the Nottingham Forest podcast. Follow us on X, Insta, TikTok, Threads and Blue Sky, and listen via Apple, Spotify and YouTube. All the links are available at 1865.football.